The night sky was filled with fire. Ships burned as they fell from the clouds, their metal frames twisting in the heat. Soldiers shouted, their voices breaking in fear. On the ground, smoke covered the city, and the people ran in every direction. No one dared to stand and fight. They had already seen what she could do. She was not like any enemy they had faced before. Her body was fast, her strength beyond anything human. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and her movements were silent, like a shadow that killed without warning. She had attacked before anyone could understand who she was. One moment the guards stood at their posts, the next moment they were lying broken on the stone. No one knew her name. They only called her the alien girl. Some said she was a weapon. Others whispered she was a ghost, born from war and hate. But no one dared speak too loud. She could hear everything. She could strike at anyone. Every soldier who tried to stop her was cut down. Every machine sent against her was torn apart. The commanders shouted orders, but their voices shook. Fear spread like a sickness. Even the strongest men lowered their weapons. To face her meant certain death, and yet, she never attacked without reason. She walked forward with cold purpose, her steps slow, her face hard like stone. Every strike she made was fast and brutal, but never wasted. She seemed less like a wild beast and more like someone carrying heavy pain. As if every blow was filled with old anger. The people watching from the shadows saw only one thing. No one could survive near her. But then, something happened that no one expected. Among the chaos, one man stood still. He was not a soldier, not a leader, not a fighter. His clothes were plain, his hands empty. While others hid, he watched her with calm eyes. The smoke swirled around him, but he did not move. He did not run. He did not even flinch when a burning ship fell not far away. The alien girl noticed him. She turned her head slowly, her glowing eyes locking onto him. Her weapon, still wet with blood, lowered for just a moment. She expected him to tremble, to fall to his knees like the others. That was what always happened. Fear was her weapon as much as strength. But this man, he did not fear. He stepped forward only one pace, but it was enough to shock everyone watching. The soldiers hiding behind walls gasped. "He's mad," one whispered. "She'll kill him where he stands." The alien girl's eyes narrowed. Why did he not run? Why did he not scream? She had attacked everyone before him, every guard, every fighter, every machine, and none had survived. Yet here was a man who stood alone, unarmed, and still dared to face her. The silence between them was heavy. The city burned, people cried, and smoke filled the air. But in that moment, nothing else mattered. He looked at her, not with hate, not with anger, but with something else. Something she had not seen in a very long time. Calm curiosity. Almost. Kindness. Her grip on the weapon tightened. She told herself it was a trick. He must be waiting to betray her, like all the others had. But then he spoke, and his voice was steady. "Why do you attack?" He asked. The words were simple, but they struck harder than any weapon. She froze. No one had ever asked her that. No one had ever spoken to her without fear, for the first time since her war began. Her hand trembled. The soldiers watched, waiting for her to strike him down. The people held their breath, sure that blood would spill. But nothing happened. She did not move. She only stared at the strange human who dared to question her. The fire crackled. The smoke drifted, and the world seemed to hold still. This was not how her story usually went. She attacked, they screamed, they died. That was the way. But now, facing this man who showed no fear, she felt something she had not felt in years. Uncertainty. Who was he? Why did he not run? And why? Why did his calm voice echo inside her heart, louder than the sound of battle? The war around them did not stop. But for her, in that moment, everything else faded. All she could see was the human who reached her without lifting a hand, and for the first time, she hesitated. The flames still raged behind her, painting the night with red light, but the alien girl did not move. Her weapon hung loosely in her hand, dripping with the memory of battle. Around her, soldiers hid in broken walls, afraid to breathe too loud. Civilians pressed themselves into the shadows, praying she would not notice them. And then there was him, the human who stood in the open. No weapon, no shield, no armor, just calm eyes and steady breath. He looked small compared to the giant wreck of a burning ship behind him. Yet somehow he seemed unshaken by the chaos. The alien girl narrowed her glowing eyes. She had seen countless faces twisted with terror, mouths screaming, bodies running in panic. But this face was calm, silent, still. "Why do you attack?" he had asked. The question hung in the air, soft but sharp, like an arrow that pierced deeper than any blade. She had no answer. Her entire life had been built on one rule: strike first, survive later. No one had ever cared about why. They only wanted her dead. The soldiers watching from a distance could not believe what they saw. They whispered among themselves, "He'll die. She'll tear him apart. Why isn't he running?" The commanders gave no orders. What command could be given against madness? One lone man standing before a monster. What strategy covered that? The alien girl stepped closer. Her boots cracked against the stone, each sound echoing in the silence. Her weapon lifted slowly, the blade catching the red light of fire. One more strike. That was all it would take to end his strange defiance. Still, the man did not move. He simply stood, breathing steady, eyes locked on hers. There was no challenge in his stare, no threat, just understanding, as if he could see something no one else had bothered to notice. Her grip tightened. Rage rose inside her chest. How dare he look at her that way? How dare he not fear? Fear was her armor. Fear kept her alive. Without fear, she was just a girl carrying scars too deep to heal. She raised the blade higher, ready to silence him. The crowd gasped. The soldiers ducked their heads. The fire roared louder, but then he took a single step forward. Her blade froze in midair. His calm voice returned, low but steady. "You don't have to fight me." The words shook her more than the armies she had crushed. She blinked once, twice, trying to make sense of him. Every instinct screamed that this was a trick. He was luring her closer so he could betray her like all the others had done. Yet, his eyes told a different story. They were not sharp with lies. They were soft, like water that had seen many storms but still flowed. The alien girl lowered her blade an inch without realizing it. Her heart pounded, though she did not show it. The silence stretched. "What are you doing?" she demanded at last, her voice low and sharp. Standing, he answered simply. "Why?" she asked, confusion mixing with her anger. "Because running would mean, I fear you. And I don't." The answer was too simple, too foolish, too impossible. Her jaw clenched. She had slaughtered hundreds, destroyed ships, ended lives without hesitation. Yet here was a man who refused to bow, who spoke to her as if she were not a monster, but something more. She could have ended him right there. But her arm refused to move. The soldiers in the shadows trembled, waiting for blood to fall. Their commanders whispered frantically, unsure if they should attack or stay hidden. One wrong move could mean their deaths. The alien girl's weapon shook slightly in her grip. Her rage and her confusion clashed inside her chest, pulling her in two directions. She wanted to silence him, but she also wanted to hear what else he would say. "You don't know me," she said, her voice cracking with quiet fury. "No," he replied, "but I can see you." That was the moment her heart stumbled. For years, she had been seen only as a weapon, a ghost, a danger. But this human, this ordinary man, claimed he could see her. Not the monster, not the killer. Her, the firelight danced across his face as he slowly raised his empty hands, showing he carried nothing, no threat. The soldiers whispered again, "He's insane." But his calm spread like an unseen wave, reaching even her. Her weapon lowered another inch. The silence grew heavier, broken only by crackling flames and the distant cry of the wounded. For the first time in her endless war, she did not know what to do. Should she kill him and end the confusion? Or should she listen to the calm voice that cut through the storm in her mind? Her glowing eyes softened just slightly, almost invisible to those watching. She hated it. She hated the weakness he drew out of her, and yet, she could not look away. The alien girl had attacked everyone before him. And yet this one human, standing without fear, was different in the middle of a burning city, surrounded by screams and smoke. A strange truth began to form in her mind. For the first time, she was not in control of the battle. The alien girl stood frozen, her weapon heavy in her hand, her chest rising and falling with sharp breaths. Around her, the world was chaos flames twisting into the night. Broken machines scattered like bones, and soldiers hiding like frightened children. Yet none of that mattered now. All her focus was on the human before her. He had not run. He had not begged. He had not lifted a weapon. Instead, he stood calm, his empty hands open, his eyes steady. His words still echoed inside her, "Because I can see you." Her heart clenched at those words. That memories she had buried long ago rose to the surface. She had once been like the humans she now hunted. A child with laughter in her throat, running barefoot across the fields of her home world. Her people had not been warriors then. They had been builders, singers, dreamers. They had trusted too easily, believed in peace too much. And because of that trust, they had been betrayed. She remembered the day the soldiers came. Not her soldiers, strangers, off-worlders. They came with promises of alliance, but behind their smiles were hidden blades. She was still a girl when she saw her family cut down, her village burned to ash. Her mother's voice was the last sound of kindness she ever heard, crying out for her to run, and she had run. She had run until her legs gave out, until the stars swallowed her world. From that day on, her heart hardened. Trust became poison. Kindness became weakness. She learned to survive by striking first before anyone could strike her. Every scar on her body reminded her of betrayal. Every life she took reminded her of the rule she had carved into her soul. Trust no one. Fear keeps you alive. Now, standing in front of this strange human, she felt that rule cracking. The human took another step closer. His face was calm, but not careless. He knew the danger. She could see it in the way his eyes measured her every move. But even with fear in his heart, he did not run. "You should hate me," she whispered, almost to herself. "Why?" he asked softly. "I have killed your people." Her voice trembled with anger, but also with something else, pain. "I have destroyed your cities. I have left your soldiers broken on the ground." "Yes," he admitted, his voice steady. "But I still see more than your rage." Her weapon shook in her grip. More than her rage? How could he say that? Rage was all that was left of her. For the first time in years, she felt the burn of tears behind her eyes. She blinked hard, forcing them away. She could not show weakness. Not here. Not now, but the human's words stirred something inside her, something she had long buried. The memory of a girl who once believed in peace. A girl who had trusted. A girl who had loved. "Do you know why I fight?" she asked suddenly, her voice low and sharp. The human shook his head. "Tell me." The silence stretched. The soldiers held their breath. The flames hissed. And the broken city waited for her answer. "I fight because no one fought for me," she said at last. Her voice cracked like broken stone. "I fight because I was a child when they took everything. My home, my family, my world. I was left with nothing but pain. And so I gave pain back to the galaxy." Her words cut like a blade through the silence. The soldiers listening from the shadows finally understood she was not just a monster. She was a wound that had never healed. The human's eyes softened. He did not step back. He did not look at her with pity, but with something far worse, understanding. "I see your pain," he said quietly. "But pain does not have to be all you are." She clenched her jaw, fury and sorrow twisting inside her. She wanted to shout at him, to silence him, to prove him wrong. But another part of her wanted to believe him. That was the dangerous part. That was the part she hated. For years, she had built walls of rage to protect herself. But this one man, standing calm before her, was breaking them with nothing but words. She stepped closer, her blade inches from his chest. The soldiers gripped their weapons, ready for her strike. But she did not swing. She searched his face, looking for the lie, the trick, the betrayal she had always expected. She found none, and that terrified her more than any army ever had. The human met her gaze and whispered, "You don't have to carry this war alone." Her weapon trembled in her hand. Her heart pounded. Her breath caught in her throat, for the first time since her childhood. She felt something stronger than rage. She felt doubt, and doubt to her was more dangerous than any blade. Asterisk, the night was heavy with silence. Flames still burned in the distance, casting red light across broken stone and shattered machines. Smoke curled into the dark sky like long black fingers. The soldiers hiding behind ruined walls held their breath, afraid even to whisper. One wrong sound might mean death in the middle of it all. The alien girl stood with her weapon raised, her glowing eyes fixed on the human. His chest rose and fell steadily, but his face showed no fear. He had listened to her words, to her pain, and still he did not run. Her blade hovered inches from his heart. One strike. That was all it would take. One quick movement and he would fall like all the others. She had killed without hesitation before. Why should this be different? But this was different. The human did not fight, did not plead. Instead, he slowly extended his hand. Not a fist, not a blade. An open hand, palm facing her, steady and calm. The soldiers gasped. Some cursed under their breath. "He's insane," one whispered. She cut him down. The commanders clenched their teeth, torn between giving the order to fire or waiting to see what happened. The city seemed to hold its breath. The alien girl stared at the hand. Her grip on the weapon tightened. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. No one had ever reached for her without trying to chain her, to trick her, to use her. Her chest burned with old memories. The faces of soldiers who had smiled before betraying her. The promises of peace that ended with her people in flames. Every time she trusted, she paid with blood. And yet, this man's hand did not shake. His eyes did not lie. Her heart pounded against her ribs. She could not understand him. Fear was the law of the galaxy. Fear kept people alive. But here stood one who broke that law. "Why do you reach for me?" she asked, her voice trembling with both fury and confusion. "Because someone must." He answered. The words cut deeper than any blade. Someone must. Simple, foolish, and yet True dot, the alien girl's weapon trembled in her hand. The soldiers watching waited for the killing blow. Some even closed their eyes, not wanting to see the moment his blood hit the ground. But she did not strike. Instead, she felt the weight of choice pressing down on her. For the first time in years, she had a choice. Not between kill or be killed, not between rage or survival, but something else, something she had forgotten long ago. Trust. Her chest ached at the thought. Trust was weakness. Trust was death. Trust was the reason her people were gone. And yet, as she stared at the human's open hand, she felt something she had not felt since she was a child. Hope. The silence grew unbearable. The flames crackled. The smoke shifted. The soldiers waited. The galaxy itself seemed to pause, holding its breath with her. She stepped forward. Gasps rose from the hidden soldiers. The commanders shouted in panic. Weapons clicked as they prepared to fire. But the human did not flinch. His hand remained open, steady, waiting. The alien girl's weapon hovered in the air, her arm shaking. Sweat rolled down her face as if she were fighting the greatest battle of her life. And perhaps she was. Finally, her blade lowered, inch by inch, until it touched the ground. The sound of metal striking stone rang like thunder in the silence. Every soldier froze. The alien girl's hand hovered above his. She could feel his warmth before their skin even touched. Her breath caught in her throat. This was madness. This was weakness. This was everything she had sworn never to feel again. And yet, her fingers brushed against his. The world seemed to stop. For the first time in years, she touched another hand without blood, without chains, without betrayal. And in that simple touch, she felt the weight of her rage tremble and crack. Her eyes widened. Her chest shook. She pulled back sharply, her body trembling as if burned. The human did not chase her. He did not force her. He simply lowered his hand again, calm as ever. "You don't have to be alone anymore," he said softly. The words echoed louder than the screams of war. The alien girl staggered back, her heart pounding, her mind in chaos. She had been given a choice, and she had almost taken it. That frightened her more than any army. Around them, the soldiers did not know what to do. Some lowered their weapons, confused. Others raised them higher, ready to fire. But everyone knew one thing. Something had changed. The alien girl had not struck. For the first time, she had hesitated. For the first time, she had touched a human without killing. And though her weapon still lay at her feet, her heart was now her greatest battlefield. The battlefield was silent. Smoke curled through the broken streets, and the glow of fire lit the night like a dying sun. Soldiers crouched behind walls and ruins, too afraid to move, too afraid to speak. They had seen something impossible. The alien girl had lowered her weapon. She, the destroyer, the shadow who had torn through armies, had let her blade fall to the ground. And worse, more shocking than that, she had touched the human's hand. Only for a heartbeat, only for a breath, but it was enough. The man stood calm, his hand still lowered, his face steady. He had not forced her. He had not begged her. He had only reached out. And somehow, that had changed everything. The alien girl staggered back, her chest rising and falling quickly, her glowing eyes flickering like fading fire. She did not understand what had just happened. For years, her life had been clear. Attack first, survive, never trust, never hope. And yet, in that single moment of contact, she had felt something she thought was gone forever. Warmth. Her heart rebelled against it. She clenched her fists, trembling as if the touch had burned her. But no matter how hard she tried to push it away, the memory of his calm eyes, his steady voice, his open hand stayed with her. Why? She whispered harshly. The human tilted his head. Why? What? Why do you not fear me? Her voice cracked, carrying both anger and confusion. I could have ended you. Maybe, he admitted, his tone calm. But you didn't. His words struck her deeper than a blade. She turned away, her body tense. He spoke as if he trusted her, as if she were something more than the monster the galaxy named her. The soldiers, hidden in the ruins, could not believe what they were seeing. She's hesitating, one whispered. This isn't possible. Others shook their heads, afraid to even think the thought had she spared him. The commanders clenched their teeth, unsure whether to give the order to fire or to wait. The longer they waited, the stranger the scene became. The alien girl spun back toward him, her eyes glowing brighter. You are a fool, she spat. If you show mercy, you die. If you show trust, you are betrayed. That is the truth of the galaxy. The human did not flinch. Maybe that is the truth you were shown, he said softly. But it doesn't have to be the only truth. His words were madness. His calm was madness. And yet, her hand, the same hand that had killed without hesitation, still trembled from the memory of touching his. She hated it. She hated how her weapon had felt heavy when she tried to raise it against him. She hated how his eyes had made her remember things she had buried, songs of her people, the sound of her mother's laughter, the warmth of home before it burned. She hated that he had reminded her she was still more than rage. Her voice dropped lower. Why do you speak to me like this? Why do you see me as something else? The man's eyes softened. Because you are something else. Her breath caught. For a moment, the flames around them seemed to fade. The smoke seemed to drift away, and all she saw was him standing unarmed in the middle of destruction. It's stronger than any army she had faced. For years, she had believed she was cursed to walk alone, a storm that destroyed all in her path. But now, in the stillness between them, she felt the possibility of something she had, lost connection. It terrified her more than war. The soldiers could not stand the silence. One of them shouted from behind cover, "Kill him. Don't listen to the monster." His words broke the stillness like glass shattering. The alien girl's glowing eyes snapped toward the voice. Rage flared hot inside her, and for a moment, everyone thought she would strike again. The soldiers raised their weapons, ready to fire. But instead of attacking, she turned back to the human. Why do you protect me? She demanded, her voice shaking. They hate me. They want me dead, and you stand in their way. The human's answer was quiet, but strong enough for everyone to hear. Because I don't see an enemy. I see someone who's been alone too long. The words struck her harder than any weapon. Her breath faltered. Her eyes widened. Alone. That word echoed in her chest like thunder. She stepped back, torn between fury and something softer she did not want to name. The bond was fragile, unspoken, and terrifying. But it was real. For the first time since her world had burned, she was no longer certain of who she was. And for the first time, she wondered what she could become. The smoke drifted low across the ruins. Flames crackled, broken ships groaned, and the smell of burning metal filled the air. Soldiers crouched in the shadows, their weapons shaking in their hands. They had seen something no one thought possible. The alien girl had lowered her weapon. She had touched the human without killing him. But the fragile moment could not last. From the far end of the street, a commander barked an order. His voice was sharp, desperate, filled with fear. Fire, now. The soldiers hesitated. Some stared at their trembling guns, unsure if they should obey. Others lifted their weapons, hands slick with sweat. The alien girl's glowing eyes snapped toward them, fury burning bright again. She had trusted once. Only once. And already they aimed to betray her again. Her rage returned like a storm. Her muscles tensed, her hands ready to rip through their fragile bodies. She wanted to unleash the fury that had kept her alive all these years. But before she could move, the human stepped in front of her. Gasps rose from the soldiers. Even she froze, her eyes widening. He spread his arms wide, his body a shield. He had no armor, no weapon, nothing to protect him. Yet he stood between her and a line of guns, steady and unshaken. "Don't," he shouted at the soldiers. His voice rang out stronger than the crackle of fire. "If you shoot, you kill me first." The alien girl stared at his back, stunned. For a heartbeat, she forgot to breathe. No one had ever stood for her. No one had ever placed themselves in danger to protect her. She had only ever been the shield for herself. And now, as human, this ordinary man was choosing to take her place. The commander's face twisted in anger. "Step aside," he roared. "She's a monster. She will destroy us all." The human shook his head. His voice was calm, steady, unbreakable. "Maybe, but she's more than that. And I will not let you kill her." The words struck her deeper than any blade. Her glowing eyes flickered, her chest trembling. Why? Why would he do this? She had spilled the blood of his kind. She had burned their cities. She had left their people in ruins. And still, he stood in front of her, daring to defy his own army. The soldiers hesitated, caught between orders and confusion. Some lowered their weapons, their eyes filled with doubt. Others kept their guns raised, sweat dripping down their faces. The commander screamed again, "Fire!" And then, the world slowed. The alien girl saw at the flicker of a trigger pulled, the spark of a shot fired. The bullet flew straight toward the human's chest. Her body moved before her mind could think. She lunged forward, her arms snapping up, catching the bullet in midair with a burst of strength that cracked the stone beneath her feet. The metal shattered in her grip, sparks flying. The soldiers froze in shock. The human turned, his calm eyes meeting hers. "You saved me," he whispered. The words hit her harder than the bullet ever could. She dropped the fragments of metal, her hand shaking. "I don't know why," she admitted, her voice low, almost broken. But deep down, she did know. It was because he had chosen her. He had stood for her when no one else ever had. The commander screamed again, furious. "She's manipulating you. Kill them both." The soldiers wavered. Their guns shook. Some obeyed, firing wildly. Others turned their weapons away. Their hearts no longer certain of who the true enemy was. The alien girl's rage exploded not against the human, not even against herself, but against those who sought to tear down the fragile bond she had just discovered. With a roar, she moved faster than the eye could follow. Her strikes tore through the weapons, shattering metal, sending soldiers sprawling. But she did not kill. Not this time. She only destroyed their guns, ripping them apart with her bare hands. The soldiers stared in disbelief. This was not the monster they had feared. This was something else, something greater. When the last weapon clattered to the ground, silence fell again. The alien girl stood panting, her glowing eyes dimmer now, less wild. She turned slowly toward the human. He had not moved from his place, his arms still spread as if shielding her from harm. Their eyes met. In his gaze, she saw no fear, no hate. Only trust, and for the first time in years, she felt trust rise in her own chest. Fragile, terrifying, but real. The soldiers whispered among themselves, too shaken to act. The commander's voice cracked with rage, but no one listened anymore. They had seen something impossible: the monster protecting a human, and the human protecting the monster. The turning point had come. The galaxy would never forget this night. The battlefield lay silent at last. Smoke curled into the night, carrying the stench of fire and broken steel. Weapons lay scattered across the ground, shattered beyond repair. Soldiers stood frozen, staring at the impossible sight before them, the alien girl and the human. Side by side, she, the destroyer who had brought fear to every world, stood with her weapon lowered. And he, the unarmed man, still stood before her as if shielding her with nothing but his body. Neither had fallen. Both still breathed. The commander's voice broke the silence. Harsh, desperate, filled with hate. Do you not see? She is a killer. She will strike again. End this now. But the soldiers did not move. Their eyes were wide, their hands trembling. They had seen her fury. Yes, but they had also seen something else. They had seen her spare the human. They had seen her protect him. And they had seen him protect her in return. Whispers spread like fire through the broken street. She saved him. She didn't kill. She fought the guns, not the man. The alien girl's glowing eyes dimmed as she looked at the human. Her chest still heaved with the weight of battle, but something inside her had shifted. For years, she had been rage given form, pain given flesh. But now, standing here, she felt something she had not known since childhood choice. She had chosen not to kill. Her mind trembled at the thought. Could she truly walk another path? Could she be more than the weapon they all believed her to be? The human's calm voice cut through the silence. This war ends tonight. All eyes turned to him. His words carried no rank, no power, no command. Yet the soldiers listened. The alien girl listened. Even the night seemed to hold still. The commander snarled, his face red with fury. You speak lies. She is nothing but a beast. The human shook his head. No, she is proof that even the darkest flame can change its light. The alien girl's breath caught. She stared at him, searching for deceit, for the betrayal she always expected. But she found none. Only truth. Only trust. Her weapon clattered as she let it fall fully to the ground. The sound rang like thunder. Soldiers flinched, waiting for her to lunge, but she did not move. She stood tall, her hands empty. The commander screamed, "Fire! Obey your orders." But not a single soldier raised his gun. The alien girl felt every eye on her. For the first time, they were not filled only with terror. Some looked with confusion. Some with doubt. Some even with hope. She turned slowly toward the human, her voice raw. What happens now? He met her gaze without hesitation. Now, you're not alone. Whatever path you choose, I will walk with you. The words hit her like a tidal wave. For so long she had carried the burden of her pain alone. For so long she had believed trust was death. But now, before the eyes of enemies and strangers, she was being offered something she thought was gone forever: companionship. Her chest trembled. The memories of her lost home rose like ghosts. The laughter of her people. The warmth of her mother's hand. The betrayal that had torn it all away. For years, she had buried those memories beneath anger. But now, with his words, they rose again, not as wounds, but as reminders of what could still be. She clenched her fists. Not with rage, but with resolve. Turning toward the soldiers, she spoke, her voice strong and clear. I am not your enemy anymore. Gasps spread through the crowd. The commander shouted curses, his voice breaking with rage. But the soldiers no longer listened. They looked to her. They looked to him. And they saw something greater than war. A new path. The alien girl stepped closer to the human. Her eyes no longer burning with fury, but glowing faintly with something softer. You should fear me, she whispered to him. He smiled faintly. Maybe, but I don't. And in that simple exchange, the course of their future shifted. The soldiers lowered their weapons fully. The commander screamed in vain, his power broken. His voice lost in the silence of those who no longer obeyed. The alien girl felt it deep inside her chest. Bond had been born this night. Fragile, but unbreakable. She had been seen not as a monster, not as a weapon, but as someone worth saving, and for the first time since her world had burned. She believed in tomorrow. The galaxy would whisper of this night for generations. The night the destroyer spared her blade. The night a human reached out without fear. And the night two enemies chose a different path together. The war was not over. But her War-the-One inside her heart had changed forever. She looked at the man by her side and breathed a single word. Almost too soft to hear. Together. And with that, the new path began.